Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Nazir, Parak Dalad, chapter 4, Mishnah Dalad. Ha'isha Shanadra ben Nazir, a woman who made herself. She declared herself a Nazir. Refrisha es behemta, and she set aside her animals. Now, every Nazir at the end of the term of his Naziris brings 3 animals. And let me read to you from the bottom because all these details are important for the Mishnah. These are a male lamb as an oila, burnt offering, a female lamb as a chata, sin offering, and a ram as a shlomim, as a peace offering. He also brings 20 loaves of bread, 10 of which are mixed with oil and 10 of which are smeared with oil. These loaves are baked as unleavened bread, as matzah. They are not offered on the altar. Rather, one of each kind is waved next to the altar together with the foreleg of the ram, and then eaten by the Kohanim, while the rest of the loaves are eaten by the Nazir and his guests. Okay? Now, that's what a Nazir does at the conclusion of his term of Naziris. Now, another rule, before any offering can be made, the animal to be offered must be consecrated, made holy, by its owner for that purpose. The owner does this by saying, this animal is an oilah, this animal is a chatas. Once this has been said, the animal becomes holy and may be used only for the purposes for which they were consecrated. Okay? That's what you do when you're consecrating an animal for a carbon. Okay? Now, here we have a woman, Shanadra ben Nazir, she made a vow to be a Nazira, v'ifrisha es behemta, and she went and she separated her animals. Okay? Now, in this case, when we say that she separated her animals, just one second. Okay, sorry. And she went and she separated her animals. Then the Baal went and he canceled her Naziris. Okay? So she already separated the animals for her karbonis, and then the husband canceled it. Which could mean that he didn't know about it. I mean, just if you think about he only has 24 hours, or he only has the day that he hears about her vow to do this. But again, if she started the vow earlier and he only found out about it, 2 weeks later, right? So 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, he has the power to cancel it. By then, she may have separated her animals that she wants to use when she completes her term. So now what does she do? Now what happens? She consecrated these animals for those karbanas, and she's not a Nazir anymore. So if let's say the animal was his, and she has a right, the halacha is she has a right to take from his animals for the purposes of fulfilling her obligation for the carbon. But since what happened here was that the Naziris was canceled, so then basically what happens is like this. Let me read to you how they explain it. Although a wife has a right to take animals from her husband's flocks to use as offerings, this right allows her only to take the animals she needs to fulfill her obligations. Since she ends up having no obligations, they were not hers to consecrate, and the consecration therefore never took effect. So it's very interesting. I mean, at the point of time when she consecrated them, she was a Nazira, right? Mm-hmm. And as we said, when a husband cancels the Naziris or any vow of his wife, it's not retroactive. It's only from here on. At the same time, though, there seems to be that what's happening here is that her right to go ahead and take from her husband's animals for her obligations of a sacrifice are somewhat contingent on it coming out that way. It's like on condition, it's conditional. If she actually needs to use them, then she has the right. If at the end of the day she never used them, she never had the right. That's what it seems. And therefore, says the Mishnah, Teitze v'sira ba'eder. You know what happens to those animals? They're fine. They go back into the flock with all the other animals. You don't got to worry about it. Because basically, whatever she did beforehand, doesn't count. Now, the Mishalohaysa Behemta, let's say the animal was hers. Now here we have to stop in a second and say, what do you mean it's hers? Basically any property a woman brings into her marriage, the husband's going to have some kind of control over. And therefore, she doesn't really have her own animal to be able to, let's say, to consecrate it for a sacrifice. But the explanation is that the person somebody gave her an animal on the condition that her husband has no power over it at all. That's the condition of the gift. If that is the condition of the gift, then actually it is completely hers and the husband has nothing in it. So that's what we're talking about here. She's got her own animals. Now, if the animals were her and she consecrated them, now, as we said before, when she consecrates them, each one is consecrated for a specific purpose. So now that she's not a Nazir anymore, and they can't be brought anymore, and she's not a Nazir anymore, what happens to them? So it says the Mishnah, Hachatas Tamas. The animal designated as a sin offering dies. Why is it dies? Means you let it die. Basically, it doesn't say exactly how you do it, but it says you just let it die. You can't use it. It doesn't go back into the flock. It has a certain sanctity to it, but you can't offer it. So you just let it die. And the reason for that is because, as I explained here, there's halacha Moshe Sinai, an oral law received at Har Sinai, that a chatas whose owner has died must be left to die. That's a Mishnah in Tamura. Chatas shemeis baleha, a sin offering that the owner died, Thomas, you let it die. And here, it's the equivalent of that. There is no more owner of this chatas because there's no more Nazir. It's the equivalent of the owner dying. And therefore, we say, achatas tamas, the chatas is left to die. Va'oila tikra va'oila. Now, the burnt offering can be offered as an ola. An ola, you can bring voluntarily, right? You can bring a voluntary ola. Since you can't bring a voluntary chatas, but you bring a voluntary ola. So even though this ola was actually an obligatory ola, but to go ahead and offer, but now you could offer it anyway because it's the same thing. You don't do anything really different. And therefore, since it can be, even though it was designated to be an obligatory oila, but now you bring it as a voluntary oila. V'shlamim tikrav shlamim. And the shlamim also is offered as a shlamim. You could voluntarily bring a shlamim. So even though this was designated as a shlamim that was obligatory, but you can now bring it as a voluntary shlamim. V'ne'achalin liyoim echad ve'ein tunim lachem. And they are all eaten in one day, and they do not need bread. Now, what that means is like this. A typical carbon shlamim, you have 2 days and a night to eat it. The shlamim of a Nazir, he only has a day and a night. I believe. Hold on a second. Yeah, 1 day and a night. Okay, so make sure I got that right. Okay, 1 day and a night. So, meaning the day it was offered and the following night. So even though now it's not being brought as a shlamim of a Nazir, but since originally it was consecrated as the shlamim of a Nazir, so it kind of retains that more stricter status of another offering. You can only the amount of time you have to eat it is limited. So that's why it says he's eaten for 1 day. Veinim tunim lachem, and there's no bread going to be brought. As we said, a Nazir brings bread, but here where it's not a Nazir bringing bread, it's not a Nazir bringing this carbon, so there's no bread, and that's derived from a pasuk. The only time you bring bread is when there will be a Nazir that will wave it. But if there's no Nazir to wave it, then you don't bring it. And since over here there is no more Nazir to wave it, then you don't bring it.
What about they put aside the flour to make the...
I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any consecration of the flour.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I don't know. All right. We will continue from here in Mitzvah Hashem next time. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.